What are some of the pros and cons of living in the United States of America? As you guys know, there's no country on the whole planet that's perfect, and the United States is no exception. Today I'm going to give you 5 pros and 5 cons that I have personally encountered while living in the United States. Before we get started, I want to make something clear. I don't hate the United States for the negatives I'm about to discuss with you in this video. I do love the United States for the great things I'm about to share with you. So I'm not shooting this video from a hate perspective. I'm shooting this video to give you a real perspective of what it's really like living in the United States of America. One of the biggest pros of living in the US are the business opportunities. If you have a local business, if you start a local business in the US, you can gain massive reach. If you can launch a product or service and gain national reach, and you can charge good money for your service. You can make a lot of money quickly. You can make more money running a business in the United States than you probably could ever make in any other country. With some exceptions, of course. Probably Singapore is a definite exception, maybe Australia too. Well over 340 million people live in the United States right now. And if you can find the product or service that people need and want, and you can sell it not just locally but also on a national level, then you can make a ton of money while living in the United States. It doesn't really need to be a product that you can sell across the whole country. Even just starting a local business can make you a lot of money. One of the cons of living in the United States is the cost of living. It can be really, really expensive, especially during this pandemic with rising inflation that is affecting the housing market, the car market. If you take a look at the current used car prices and you take a look at how much cars sold for before the pandemic started, you will see that used car prices have gone up by as much as 30% over the past 18 to 20 months. Now, the Fed says that these price increases are only transitory, meaning the spike in prices will eventually come to a halt. However, it hasn't happened so far. And the good news was actually that before it was very cheap to buy used cars in the United States. In fact, much cheaper than in any other country that I have been to. And like I said, the same also holds true for real estate prices. With low mortgage rates and just stimulus checks, the government printing money like crazy, people have more money to spend. And if people can buy a home on a low interest loan, they certainly do that, and they did that. And right now in the market, there is a shortage of properties. And whenever there's a shortage and there's more money than before, you know what happens. The golden rule of supply and demand kicks in. A definite plus of living in the United States is the wide range of places that you can live in. I mean, it doesn't matter if you like tropical climate, subtropical climate, if you want 2 seasons, 4 seasons. In the United States, you can have it all in the same country. If you want real winter, you can move up to Oregon, for instance. You can move to New York State, Michigan. You can just find a state suitable for your needs. And the same holds true if you like tropical weather. Guess what? You can live in southern Florida and have a fantastic time. Or you can even go live in Puerto Rico or Hawaii. I know that these places are not so cheap, especially southern Florida and Hawaii, but you have the options available that you would not have in many other countries. Another con of living in the United States is the cost of healthcare. Healthcare is everything but cheap in the United States, and the way it works is that you sign up for a healthcare plan. It is supported by the government, so you go to healthcare.gov, and if you are a resident or a citizen, you will be able to sign up for that. And the main problem are the premiums and the out-of-pocket expenses. And that is really sad, because if you come from another country, if you come from another continent, and you're used to getting healthcare for free from your government, and then you come to the United States and you're like, wow, have very high premiums, high out-of-pocket expenses, and it's just a lot more money that you will need to spend before you get the service. That's something that is upsetting to a lot of people, and it is understandable, and we all wish for healthcare to finally become affordable for for the average American. Americans have a can-do attitude. They are very positive, they're very outspoken, but they are very goal-oriented people. No doubt that this is what makes America great. It's the business mindset, it's the motivation mindset, it's the can-do attitude, it's the inspiration, it's the goals, it's the drive that makes this country great. You know, it's the people that really make this country great. And there's a lot of people that are very innovative, a lot of people that have developed amazing technologies, that have built great companies, that have gotten international reach, and without a doubt, the best products come out of the United States. And it's just great to be living in a country where you know you have so many amazing minds right next to you that you can access. Food safety is a concern in the United States, and not a lot of people are aware of that, but food in the United States, it contains a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, a lot of fat, and also a lot of preservatives. Personally, I'm not a big fan of fast food, and never was and never will be. I prefer freshly cooked food over fast food any day. However, it can be a little bit difficult living in a country where food, especially fast food, is accessible like it is in the United States. Like, you drive by it every single day if you live in the United States, and you're like, well, why do I put in the effort to make great food at home if I can just stop here at KFC? When I lived in Texas and I drove by Whataburger, you know, it was very tempting for me to stop and just get some food. However, I have tried it, and yeah, it tastes phenomenal, but I know it doesn't do too much good to my body. And dining out is not the only problem. It's not just the fast food restaurants. It's also the foods, you know, the fruits, the veggies, and the beef, and all the packaged foods that you buy at the supermarket. You know, whether you go to Walmart or, you know, in Texas we have HEB. It doesn't matter which place that you go to, you see an apple of this size, you know, and you know there's something wrong with this apple, and then when you actually eat it, you know, it doesn't taste anything like an apple anymore. Growth hormones, pesticides, preservatives, you're going to have to deal with it all when you live in the United States, and much more than in many other countries. One of the very best things of living in the United States that a lot of people, especially the ones coming from the Far East, appreciate is the freedom of speech, okay? Because, for instance, in Asian countries, or say Russia, you know, it's Asia too, or Africa, or even Latin America, you know, if you come from any of these countries, you know, from any of these regions, and then you come to the United States and you're like, well, I can actually express my opinion without needing to fear any potential further action by the government. You know, if I speak up against the government, that is a feeling that inspires a lot of people. That is a real reason why a lot of people want to live in the United States, because they want to be more outspoken, they want to have freedom of speech, and it does exist to a very high degree in the United States. One of the cons of living in the United States, I mean, this can be a con, cannot be a con. It really depends on what you do for a living, whether you have a business, whether you're employed. But what I'm talking about is taxes. There is tax avoidance, which is legal, and then there's tax evasion, which is definitely illegal. However, if you focus on tax avoidance, let's say you have a business and you're avoiding taxes the legal way, you know, you can save a lot of money in the short term, but you're delaying it, you know, paying taxes in it, you're reinvesting, you are buying assets, whatever it would be, but you must follow the code. The United States, you know, if you run an LLC, you gotta follow a certain code here. However, if you are employed, there's a lot less that you can do, because employees, they can't really delay a lot of things, you know, because you receive a paycheck and the company already deducts all the taxes. I mean, that's how it is in most cases, at least. Not in all cases, but in most cases, the company already deducted everything. So there's no real way for you to avoid anything. Paying taxes in the US is actually a lot harder when you live on your own than when you live with somebody else, because let's say you're married, you have kids, well, guess what? You pay a lower tax rate than if you're single. And that also fits very well in the con that I mentioned already before, which is the cost of living. I know this sounds probably very contradictory, but one of the good things of living in the United States are the food choices. And I'm not talking about grocery shopping right now. I'm talking about, the United States being an international place. A lot of people from all different places in the world move to the United States, whether it was their ancestors, whether they just moved to the US recently. You're going to have an amazing amount, okay, a huge variety of different cuisines to choose from, especially if you live in a decent sized city. But even if you live in like a smallish city, 100,000, 200,000 people, you're going to find all kinds of foods at most probably every corner, right? If you want Chinese food, Indian food, you want European food, Italian, Greek, Spanish, or let's say you're into Latin food like Mexican food, Colombian food, or Puerto Rican food. It doesn't matter what it is, you usually have it all in the cities and sometimes even in the towns, because a lot of immigrants moved to the towns and started restaurants. And that's something that I've really gotten to appreciate about the United States. The last con of living in the United States is education. And what I want to point out here is the cost of education. It's not necessarily what is being taught, because there's good sides about the education system in the United States. For instance, that you can homeschool people if you wish to do so, or you can homeschool through communities, there's a lot of good options available, but the cost of education is beyond unaffordable to the average American, and that's why a lot of people end up with student loans and student debt, and they carry it for a long time until maybe it gets forgiven or they have to pay it back at some point. Education in the United States is definitely overpriced in my opinion. Education, just as healthcare, should be available for free. Nobody should have to go broke in order to afford healthcare and education. Are there any pros and cons that I forgot to add in this video? Which of the discussed talking points resonates the most with you? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and visas every week. Before I let you go, I got 2 recommendations for you. Recommendation number 1, I shared a video on the cheapest and safest countries in the world. If you want to watch this video, click on the link right here. 2, I shared another video on open countries. These are amazing places that you can visit without having to comply to a whole lot of entry requirements. If you want to watch this video, click right here. Thank you for watching.